Guilty Gear Strive on the Nintendo Switch is finally going to be getting updated. In case you didn't know, Guilty Gear Strive was actually released on the OG Switch back in January of this year. A lot of people thought it was going to go the way of Mortal Kombat 1 in that it was not going to perform well, it was going to be ugly and all these horrible things, but I knew better. I always thought it was going to be a serviceable port at best, but even I was wrong. No way. The Nintendo Switch version of Guilty Gear Strive was actually better than the original release back in 2021. Oh my god, no way! Or at least the PlayStation 4 version. If you checked out my video on the Switch edition back when the game came out a few months ago, you would know the game looks pretty much no different, with the only visual differences being some minor resolution changes, which should have been obvious since it is the Switch, but everything else is pretty much the same. The Switch version even loads a lot faster than the PlayStation 4 version. I did that comparison and even I was shocked when I saw that. I did not expect it to load faster. However, in my last Guilty Gear Strive Switch video, I talked about how, for whatever reason, Arc System Works has not released any of the Season 4 characters on the Switch beyond Queen Dizzy. As you know, we did get Queen Dizzy for free on the Switch, which was really cool, but that was back in February. It's now been 5 months later and we haven't seen any of the other Season 4 characters. Well, that's all gonna change pretty soon according to Ken Miyauchi. He's the producer of Guilty Gear Strive, and he released a statement about a week ago regarding the current status of DLC for the Switch version. He said, and I quote, "We sincerely apologize for the long wait regarding the Switch version of Guilty Gear Strive. Venom, Unika, and Lucy are planned for an update in the fall of 2025. Development for the Switch edition involves porting the character after completion, followed by sequential optimization and processing load reduction," whatever the frick that means. So this is pretty much what I said in my last video. I figured they were working on the main versions of the DLC first, and then they were going to start working on the Switch versions, which only makes sense since the Switch edition was never going to have parity, and so it was always going to be a lesser priority. Like, you gotta remember, the game came out like 4 years after the original release. I do wish they had been a bit more forthcoming about this though. We went 5 months since the release of Queen Dizzy. 2 more characters have released on the other consoles since then, and without a whisper of the Switch version. A lot of people reasonably thought that, oh hey, they abandoned the Switch version. Ken's statement continues, the fall 2025 update is expected to bring it up to date with the latest version, including DLC characters and digital figurines, character balancing, and ranked matches. Okay, so we are getting the update, and it's gonna be a big update, so that's the good news. And unfortunately, now we have to talk about the bad news, and I would rather not do that, but if people are gonna base their purchase of this game on this video, then I need to talk about the bad news as well. The online community for Guilty Gear Strive on the Nintendo Switch edition is dead. D-E-A-D, dead. The last time I went online, couldn't find a single match. I was queued up for like half an hour, not a single match. And it's not the quality of the game. The port is quite literally perfect. You couldn't ask for a better port on the original Switch, but for whatever reason, people just did not gravitate to it. I got my opinions on why that may be, and for one, it costs $60. Which sounds crazy, but then you also gotta factor in the fact that the Switch version has all of Season 1, 2, and 3, as well as Queen Dizzy totally for free, which is a great deal, but I think a lot of people just looked at the price tag and they didn't even consider everything that it offered. They just looked at the price tag and said, nope, not doing that. So that's one factor, the price. The other one is probably a bigger factor, and that is that it does not have crossplay. If it had crossplay, this would be super active even on the Nintendo Switch, but therein lies the problem. It's on the Nintendo Switch. The original Nintendo Switch cannot handle crossplay in this game, or most games for that matter. It might look and run perfectly well on the Switch, but that doesn't mean it goes toe-to-toe with the PS4 version with regards to input lag and other things. Take any fighting game on the Switch, there's always gonna be a bit more input lag. That's just how the Switch is, unfortunately. Plus the hardware differences between Switch 1 and PS4, and especially PlayStation 5. 5. Like, it was never gonna work with crossplay. But, and this is one thing that I hope they're working towards, and I think you know where I'm headed with this, but I think the obvious thing to do is to make a Switch 2 Upgrade Edition. Strive is always going to be a Discord fighter exclusive on the original Switch. There's no way around it. But the Switch 2 is another story. The Switch 2 is capable of running any currently existing game to such a high degree that whatever differences there might be are completely meaningless. So in the end, I do think it would have been the smarter play to just wait and release the game on the Switch 2 instead of on a system that was on its way out. Maybe they could have released it a month or 2 months into the Switch 2's life so as to not compete directly with Street Fighter 6 on launch day, but that's in the past. So, having said all that, we do not have a release date for this update. All we do know is that it's coming in the fall, so that's within the next few months we're gonna be getting the remaining Season 4 characters, balance changes, and more. The like button is feeling kinda lonely, so do me a solid and hit that real quick. I'm SwitchPlayed, done.